Did you know that even wild and dangerous animals can say thank you? Today, I will show and tell you about the most touching rescue stories of wild animals that simply cannot be ignored. At the end of the video, you will learn about two of the most fascinating rescue stories, after which people receive genuine expressions of gratitude. Enjoy watching. The first touching story I want to tell you about happened in 2011 in New Zealand. You have probably heard of this country, and geography enthusiasts even know where it is located. But for those who skipped school lessons, it's an island quite close to Antarctica. So, in June of that year, an amazing animal was found on one of the island's beaches. A young emperor penguin was discovered there. This was an unusual occurrence since emperor penguins exclusively live in Antarctica, and the distance from their usual habitat to New Zealand is about 2,000 miles. The penguin, later named Happy Feet, was disoriented and weakened. The locals immediately realized that the animal had health issues. Apparently, the poor thing mistook beach sand, which it saw for the first time in its life, for snow and ate it. The sand got stuck in its stomach, leading to dehydration and deteriorating health. Fortunately, the locals quickly sought help from veterinarians and zoologists. The penguin was transported to Wellington Zoo, where specialists began thorough treatment. They performed endoscopies to remove the sand from its stomach and administered fluids to prevent dehydration. The treatment lasted several weeks, during which Happy Feet gradually regained strength. The veterinarians who cared for the penguin became very attached to it and put a lot of effort into its recovery. Fortunately, the bird recovered quickly. Once Happy Feet's condition stabilized, preparations began for its return to its natural habitat. Consultations were held with scientists and marine biologists to determine the best way to transport the penguin back to Antarctica. Experts decided to send it on a research vessel headed for the Antarctic region. In August of that year, Happy Feet was placed on board the vessel, equipped with a satellite tracking device to monitor its journey after release. The ship sailed towards the Southern Ocean, where Happy Feet was released into the water. According to the team involved in the operation, the penguin quickly started swimming, showing all the signs of returning to normal life. Personally, I am very glad that everything turned out well for this poor creature. It is a very unusual case, especially considering that penguins in the open ocean are frequently attacked by other inhabitants like orcas, so the fact that it traveled so far is simply astonishing. The next story I want to tell you about happened in 2012 in India. In the state of Gujarat, there was a touching rescue of a small lion cub. This wild animal, which can easily bite off a person's finger even as a cub, got into serious trouble. The lion cub, only a few months old, accidentally fell into a deep well on the outskirts of a village. It was very narrow and deep, leaving the wild animal with no way to climb out. The villagers, hearing the cub's plaintive cries, quickly realized it needed help. They promptly reported the incident to the forestry department. Rescuers arrived at the scene with a team of veterinarians and wildlife specialists. They quickly assessed the situation and began devising a plan to save the lion cub. Time was of the essence, as the animal was in a stressed state and could injure itself trying to escape. The rescue operation was challenging due to the well's depth and narrowness. Specialists used ropes, ladders, and special nets to carefully reach the cub. One of the rescuers descended into the well to tie the animal with a rope and lift it to the surface. The cub was scared but fortunately did not resist, allowing the rescuer to complete his task quickly. After the lion cub was extracted from the well, veterinarians examined it. It was exhausted and dehydrated but had no serious injuries. They provided first aid, fed, and hydrated it. The veterinarians also conducted a full medical examination to ensure the cub had no internal injuries. I was so happy that this story had a good ending. The animal was not kept in captivity for long. After receiving the necessary medical care and regaining its strength, the lion cub was ready to return to the wild. Rescuers and veterinarians took it to the nearest national park where its family lived. The cub was gently released into the wild and quickly found its mother and other pride members. The story gained significant media attention. The heroic efforts of the rescuers and veterinarians were talked about not only in India, but also beyond its borders. The whole story quickly spread worldwide. However, I could not find any information on whether those involved in the rescue operation were given any recognition. In my opinion, these people deserved at least some praise. Their professionalism and quick actions helped save such an amazing animal. There are actually many touching stories about rescuing wild animals. So, if you want me to prepare another video on this topic, be sure to write about it in the comments. For now, I will tell you about another incident. This time, a bear cub in California found itself in a terrifying situation. In October 2017, when wildfires were raging in Northern California, firefighters discovered a little bear cub trapped. It was literally surrounded by flames, making escape impossible. The bear cub was burned, disoriented, and very frightened. The fires that year were particularly severe, affecting many wild animals. Fortunately, people were able to help this little one in time. The firefighters risked their lives to enter the flames and rescue the bear cub. They used blankets and protective gear to safely extract it from the danger zone. The bear cub was weak and could not move on its own. Rescuers carefully carried it to a safe place where veterinarians could examine it. I also want to highlight the bravery of those who rushed into the fire to save a dangerous wild animal. The bear cub was quickly taken to a wildlife rehabilitation center where it received necessary medical care. Veterinarians found it had serious burns on its paws and body, requiring immediate treatment. They provided first aid, applied bandages, and began a course of treatment. At the rehabilitation center, the bear cub was named Tinder. The center's specialists cared for it around the clock. The little one always had food, water, and medication, so it recovered fairly quickly. However, don't think that the little bundle of joy recovered from its injuries in just a few days. The recovery process was quite tough and took several months. Veterinarians and zoologists closely monitored its condition, regularly conducted medical checkups, and adjusted treatment as needed. Tinder gradually gained weight and started showing activity. Specialists paid great attention to its psychological state, minimizing stress and providing a comfortable environment for recovery. And of course, after some time, Tinder was ready to be released back into the wild once fully healed and strong. The rehabilitation center's specialists carefully chose a release site to ensure it could adapt and survive in its natural habitat. They selected a national forest far from human settlements, providing ample resources for the young bear. Tinder was released into the wild under the specialists' supervision. It quickly adapted to the new environment and began exhibiting natural behavior typical of wild bears. The specialists continued to monitor it using radio tags to ensure successful adaptation. Personally, I am very happy that this little one could continue its life as if nothing had happened. And I am still amazed that many people do not follow fire safety rules in the forest. Friends, even if you just throw away a glass or plastic bottle, it can cause a fire. Such items can act like a magnifying glass for sunlight, causing fires that kill millions of innocent animals. Be careful and always pick up your trash. I am sure you have noticed that all the previous stories mostly involved land animals. But sometimes aquatic creatures need help too. The next story I want to tell you is about such an animal. In 2016 in New Zealand, an orca stranded on the beach was found. This large mammal was stuck in shallow water and was in critical condition by the time it was discovered. This incident occurred at Farewell Spit, known for its long and narrow sandy shore. Similar cases often happen there. Unfortunately, if marine animals find themselves on land for any reason, they face inevitable death. Local residents who noticed the stranded orca immediately called for help from rescue services and marine conservation organizations. Staff from New Zealand's Department of Conservation, marine biologists, veterinarians, and volunteers arrived on the scene. They quickly coordinated their efforts to organize the rescue operation. But don't think that rescuing such a large animal is an easy task. It's actually very difficult. The first thing the rescuers did was to provide first aid. How? You might think they gave it an injection, but no. The rescuers started by pouring water over the orca to prevent dehydration and overheating in the sun. They also covered the orca with wet towels to retain moisture and protect its skin from sunburn. Veterinarians examined the animal and found no serious wounds or injuries, giving hope for a successful rescue. If it had had major wounds, saving it would have been almost impossible. To rescue the orca, they had to wait for high tide. Without it, there would be no way to safely return the animal to the ocean. While waiting for this natural phenomenon, rescuers and volunteers continued to care for the orca, maintaining its vital functions. They also developed a plan to use special straps and lifting equipment if necessary to move the animal. When the water level was sufficient, the rescue team began the active phase of the operation. They carefully guided the orca to the water, using ropes and straps for support and direction. The whole process took several hours and was very complex and intense. Fortunately, it ended well. When the mammal reached a sufficient depth, it began to move actively, helping the rescuers. I was shocked by what happened next. No, the orca didn't just swim away, nor did it attack the rescuers out of panic. On the contrary, it decided to thank them. How? This intelligent animal circled the people several times, expressing its gratitude, and only then swam away. This story caused quite a stir in the media. The internet was abuzz with stories about how a wild animal thanked its rescuers. I was deeply moved by this. Moreover, this case once again proved that marine mammals are very intelligent creatures. By the way, I found a very similar story, but this one happened in Mexico. On one of the beaches, locals discovered a dolphin that had stranded itself. It seemed disoriented and unable to swim back to deeper waters on its own. This happened on one of the popular beaches in the Baja California area. Fortunately, those who found the poor animal quickly called the professionals. The rescuers who arrived at the scene immediately began to act. The first task was to keep the dolphin wet, preventing dehydration and overheating. People constantly poured water over it and covered it with wet towels to maintain skin moisture. It was important to act quickly to minimize stress and the risk of injury for the animal. Next, they tried to pull the animal back into the water using ropes and straps. Once the dolphin was moved into the ocean, they carefully guided it to a deeper part of the sea. People standing in the water helped the dolphin orient itself and move in the right direction, as it was still disoriented. The animal gradually regained strength and activity, giving hope for a successful operation. After some time, it recovered and was able to swim on its own. The dolphin made several circles around its rescuers as a sign of gratitude and then swam away. Personally, I am amazed that even wild animals do not forget the kindness shown to them by people and try to express their thanks, and there are indeed many such stories. Did you like these stories? Write in the comments if you want more, as I have plenty of similar material. I also want to highlight the professionalism of all these rescuers. Speaking of professionals, friends, you have the opportunity to join our team. If you have video editing skills, can voice videos in Russian, English, or other languages, or write interesting scripts, we would love to work with you. Write to our Telegram bot. The link is in the description, and thank you for your attention.